Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica Podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. So, hello and thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. Today we have a new episode. We have an amazing storyteller. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Deema, to Urbanistica Podcast. Hey, and welcome.
Thank you, Mustafa, for having me. And I look forward to this episode with your podcast.
I'm really happy to have you. Thank you so much for your time. So tell me, how are you doing?
Great.
In which city are you now?
I am based in Dubai since 2005. I was born in Amman, Jordan, and I moved here in 2005, and this has been home for the past 18 years.
Yeah. So tell me, how is the weather? Because now in Sweden, like it's so snowy and super cold. So
It's perfect. Dubai is a coastal city in the Middle East on the Arabian Gulf. It's a desert town. However, we still have about 7 months of very mild weather.
Wow.
So the temperature outside right now is 24 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is it's very moderate. So it's not that dry and it's not that humid. And but in the summer, which are like July, like end of June, July, August, and September, it becomes very, very hot and humid. So, but other than that, it's quite pleasant most of the year.
Yeah, last year I attended the Dubai Expo, and the weather was like
Which month?
real. It was like all the 6 months.
You were here for 6 months?
Yeah. The first was like super hot, like in the beginning, but then during this time of the year, it was like, as you say, perfect. So I really miss it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty pleasant, and people don't understand this, like that there are pleasant months, and when winter is sometimes it gets chilly. The lowest it becomes like it gets to 11 degrees, but other than that, it's quite good.
Amazing. So, Deema, you are our storyteller for this episode. How would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Give us a highlight about you.
I am today, like as I said, I was born in Jordan. I studied architecture in Jordan and then moved to Dubai in 2005. It was the height of the construction boom, real estate construction boom in Dubai, and based on my passion, which is looking at cities and I'm looking at design, I was sucked into the. Maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's a boom. Like it depends on where you look at it. Into the major construction projects that were happening in our region. So I started as a consultant in a multidisciplinary engineering firm where we worked on like master plan developments, greenfield developments. They were at city scale, I would say. Then I moved on to working with a real estate developer. We have a lot of competition here when it comes to real estate development. So real estate developers often in-house have an in-house design team in addition to consultants. So they will always have an in-house design team. So I led an in-house design team, master planning, for a design-led, design-focused developer here in the region. The scale that we are talking about is to bring an idea.
Yeah.
It's like a development in the UAE would be 70,000. It will the capacity will be 70,000 persons.
Wow.
So that's a population of a development that it would be like a size of 200 hectares. So we deal with 200 hectares. So this is a size that the scale of the development that we were working on. And then from the developer, I took on a new role with a government entity in Dubai. It's called the Roads and Transport Authority, RTA. And we were part of a team focused on realizing a Dubai 2040 urban plan, which is a vision for the urban growth within the scheme of Dubai. And one of the initiatives which I focused on was realizing of Dubai cycling friendly city. And people did not think about Dubai and cycling friendly in the same sentence.
Exactly.
But this is what we're here to talk about.
Exactly. This is why we have you, and I'm really happy that you're here to tell us what is happening and also to inspire us, because there's a lot to learn from you. So before we start into our story, can you just give us a highlight about like the Middle East, the countries, and so on?
Sure. There's the Middle East is the area between the Red Sea and depends on which what people consider. But for me, it's Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and different countries in the Gulf, which are Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, etc. So this is I would say the Arabic-speaking Middle East. So the countries over there can be classified into two categories, you can say. Oil producing and non-oil producing. So the oil producing are countries such as Jordan, where I come from, and the non-oil producing. And the oil producing are the countries, the wealthy countries, such as the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And traditionally, people from the non-oil producing countries move as expats to the oil producing countries for job opportunities and for to pursue to move in for people studies elsewhere, and then they move to those countries, United Arab Emirates, etc., to relocate there and work there. However, the trend is changing. A lot of people who were my age and grew up in those countries, the United Arab Emirates, and they moved there because of the political situation, etc. They still call these countries as home. The GCC countries, and there are even European expats and Asian expats who still grew up here, and they are making continue to live here. So sometimes you see 2 generations or 3 generations of the same family in these countries, and this is rather new. It wasn't the situation before, because the countries in the region are new. So the UAE, the national day for the UAE, the Union of the United Arab Emirates, is called United Arab Emirates because it's a group of emirates which united around in the 70s. So it's there are most of the urban cities or the cities in this region are new when it comes to urbanization and large-scale settlement of population.
Exactly. And when I was there, it's so much diverse. Like you see people from so many different nationalities. I think it's very beautiful.
It's great. It's very, very diverse and very, very tolerable. Tolerance. There's high tolerance, and it's there's a unique lifestyle here. So you can you have the family and you have the safe the values of family and safety for and respect for women, and at the same time you have the lifestyle if you want to pursue choose a different lifestyle. You want to be active, you want to be a sporty, you want to be you want to work for many hours. So it's like there's something for everyone, I would say.
That's true.
But the highlight for me would be the respect. And the other one is tolerance and safety. It's extremely safe.
I agree with you. And for us coming from let's say Sweden, it was so much interesting with the safety perspective. We were like midnight, and it was super safe. And also I remember one of my colleagues, she forgot her phone somewhere. And she was like, she went crazy. Oh my God, I need my phone. Like all my job, all my life is in my phone. I need it now. Anyway, we went back the day after, and it's still the same place, And they told us like, yeah, it is like this. Even if you leave your bag, even if you leave your money, your key for car, it's gonna be easy there. Yeah, which is great.
It is. It's extremely. It's a privilege to have such safety, and we don't take it for granted. I have 2 children, so
that's amazing.
Who grew up in Dubai.
Yeah,
and it's very nice to see the diverse range of friends they have, the way they understand the world, the way they see the world. They don't see religion, they don't see color, they don't see. They just see humans, and it's fantastic. But at the same time, they live in a bubble when it comes to safety.
True.
They really do. Like when we travel, we have to brief them and brief them again and again and again.
Yeah.
Do not leave your stuff. Do not leave your bag open. So it's and I don't want to build distrust, but I don't.
But still, you need to
responsibility. So,
I remember when we took the flight back home, we had like transit in one country, and she left her bag, and I was like, oh, come on, take care. It's not Dubai anymore. Be careful.
Exactly. So
Deema,
it's something not to take for granted.
Yeah, exactly. So Deema, like, what do cities in Middle East witness because of like the car traffic?
So, as I said, there was a rapid urbanization of the cities in the Middle East. So, if you look at the non-oil producing countries such as Amman, Jordan. So, Jordan is, I would say, the capital city is where the most of the population, where the most of the economic activity, and it's all happening in one place. They try to decentralize, but it's not that successful. So the capital city, Amman, witnessed waves of immigration because of the political situation, and growth was mostly car-centric. And the resultant is that once the city population right now, the country population is 10 million, but the Amman population fluctuates, maybe between 4 or 6 million. However, the congestion reached new levels. The congestion when it comes to car-centric to Amman alone, or the country as a whole, is costing around 3%, $3 billion in 2020. And this is according to a report by the World Bank. And the car, when we say car-centric, we are saying that in order to move from most of your daily trips, you need a car. So there is not another mode of transport available, and it's mostly done by private vehicles. When back in the 70s, the ownership of private vehicles was around 58 for every one car for every 58 persons. However, right now it is around 1 car for every 6 persons in the capital. The public transport is very weak, and there has been multiple attempts to improve it. However, still weak. As I said, 6% of the whole GDP is as losses for congestion. 1.5 of them is only for productivity and fuel. And because it's a non-oil producing country, 50% of the imports of the oil or the fuel through the country is not going to industries. Is actually going to fuel those cars, and this is serious because it's a national security issue. Lastly, is that unfortunately there are so many traffic fatalities, and 50% of the people who are killed on the roads are pedestrians.
Wow.
And because of the lack of the pedestrian infrastructure, and the also sad part is that they around 10% of the population has disabilities. So the infrastructure is not adequate to serve these people.
Yeah.
So that's a bleak picture of the non-oil producing countries such as Amman, Jordan.
But like, you work a lot in this field and you have experience in this. So what are solutions from your perspective? We have so many problems because of cars. What can we do?
So we explained about the non-oil producing. We can discuss the challenges of non-oil producing countries, but we can look at the same report that I mentioned, which is the World Bank report that was published in 2020 about the transportation inefficiencies in Jordan.
Yeah.
They've listed maybe 6 or 7 recommendations.
Okay.
The recommendations include, of course, changing the policy. So the policy should, the transportation and urban planning policy should go
Both,
hand in hand.
yeah.
And avoid the sprawl, avoiding low density development, encouraging mixed use development, investing in public transport, introducing low emission zones, investing in electrification. There are so many initiatives, and then one of them is actually, of course, improve traffic safety and education and awareness. And one of them is to promote active travel. Active travel, when we say active travel, means the travel that is some people call it personal mobility, which is cycling, walking, scooters, or other modes similar to that. So if you look at these 7 recommendations, the easiest and the lowest hanging fruit and the lowest cost, and I think the highest benefit, this is not only my point of view, however, it's a point of view of experts, is to actually focus on promoting safe pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. And from my own perspective, in Jordan, we can start with pedestrian infrastructure, and then the same conditions that are conducive to pedestrian infrastructure can at the same time serve in the future for cycling infrastructure.
Yeah, so this is like, how to say, the prior, if the government wants to start to do something, maybe the easiest.
It is
maybe not the easiest.
C40 cities.
Yeah.
C40 cities. So the managing director of C40 cities wrote an article a few months ago.
Yeah.
And he said, I've always asked, what is the most cost-effective solution, like highest benefit, when the same one looks at the cost, to improve environmental conditions in cities. And he said, but if we broaden the question a little bit more, which is to also solve the problem of poverty and social equality and environment, the best solution is to focus on cycling and walking. So taking space out of the car and giving it to humans,
to people.
So this is in Jordan. Like there are many tools to look at the cycling and walking benefits. However, there were attempts in Amman to improve cycling and walking. They're not cycling, only walking. But they are islands. But however, when I'm talking about this, I'm always talking about the network. If we make the best boulevard and then everybody arrives to that boulevard with the private vehicles, it's not what we're aiming at. We are aiming at providing networks.
True. So how is the case in an oil producing country? Is it the same challenges?
So the oil producing countries are different because there is those countries are wealthy. And I will specifically mention the case of Dubai, which is my hometown. So Dubai is a rather new city. Everybody sees the photos of those high-rise
buildings,
towers, famous architecture, the famous architect. The city is a population between 2 to 3 million. The day population of Dubai is around 1 million, because Dubai is a center for the surrounding emirates. We call them emirates. So it's like an emirate is similar to the states in the US.
Yeah.
So the United Arab Emirates is a federal system made out of states, which is emirates, and Dubai is one of them. So it's each one of them is managed by its own council, and then there is a federal government that manages the rest of the emirates.
Yeah.
So Dubai, as I said, is new. There is the infrastructure is very, very new, and it's mostly car centric. However, there is a metro in Dubai operational since 2009. It's very successful. It's has very high ridership, and it's connecting many of the mixed use neighborhoods with the central business district. And based on the success of the metro, the city, the government, maybe this is something also we need to discuss, which is that recently there was an event in the UAE called the Government Summit.
Yeah.
Have you seen
last week?
So this is the secret of Dubai's success, or maybe not everyone knows that, is the governance aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it's not there's high skill in the government, and there is so much governance, and that's why they are even right now they're hosting events about government summits and and envisioning the future and like sharing lessons learned with the rest of the world because of the high governance. So for example, because the city is always looking how to improve itself, they are always competing. They're competing with themselves. They want to excel.
Yeah.
So they were the first ones in the whole region. Like I would say that there's not a metro other than Egypt. Recently in KSA, but and Qatar also very recent. But Dubai was one of the few first ones to implement the metro. And from the metro, they started improving the infrastructure around the physical infrastructure, the walking and cycling infrastructure around the metro station, and they call them integration. So integration around the metro stations. And from that, there was another story about the cycling that I will share with you.
Yeah.
So there are attempts to not attempts. There is a clear effort to promote cycling and walking in Dubai. However, it started as a leisurely activity,
like the metro cycle.
No, the promotion of cycling was started as a leisure activity. Because the situation, as I mentioned in Dubai, is that we have an obesity problem. So the leading cause of death here is cardiovascular disease. The obesity, the percentage of obese adults is actually around 28%.
Wow.
So 1 out of 3 of adults living here is obese. Children, when it comes to adolescents and children, it's around 15%.
Okay.
And this is due to easy access to fast food and the lack of physical activity.
Yeah.
So the government looks to promote a healthier lifestyle.
Okay.
And attract, of course, expats and attract, the people who are who want to have like a city that offers the lifestyle that they seek, and that's part of the reason that that's how the cycling infrastructure started in the region.
Yeah.
There's a clear vision by the government to promote cycling and walking. The ruler himself, Sheikh Mohammed, is seen taking the metro and riding the bicycle himself. And the Crown Prince promotes a whole wellness month. It's called the Dubai 30 by 30. Have you seen it?
I think on Instagram. Yes.
Yeah. It's so the whole city, like they activate the whole city, and they encourage every resident in Dubai to do 30 minutes of exercise for 30 days. Of course, the ripple effect like becomes over the whole month. People do not stop in that month, and it's been years happening. In the beginning of the few years, they used to host world-class athletes, Anthony Joshua, many people coming to Dubai and hosting classes, public classes open to everyone.
Yeah.
But right now there are even more exciting news whereby, for instance, they closed the major highway in the city, and they encourage people to go and cycle there.
That's really good.
It's one like there is a maybe it's 9x9 lanes highway. They close it for maybe around 10 or 20 kilometers, and they invite people to cycle over there. But as I said, this is mostly for us as a sport, as a leisure activity.
Yeah.
I'm more focused on transport, cycling as a transport, and cycling and walking as a transport, not as a sport. Yeah. However, sometimes they can bleed into the other.
Of course. Yeah. But as you mentioned, this is like more activities to promote and to inspire people and to get them bike more, walk more, and just like trying to change their behavior. But but as you mentioned, it's about transport. So how is the network? Are there like connected bike lines, walk lines? As you like, it's the same here in Europe. So, when sometimes cities say not force, but tell their citizens, okay, use more public transportation, take the buses, take your bike, don't use car. But when you see the reality, you see like the bike line is not connected at all, and then it's a kind of impossible to get from A to B by bike or walk. So you cannot tell citizens to change their behavior if you don't really give them the option so they can do it. So how is the progress going in Dubai?
Yeah. So I want to say, okay. For instance, the ciclovia in Latin America. Ciclovia is when it used to happen in Colombia and Bogota, and it's happening elsewhere in the world, whereby they close a network of streets on Sunday of every month, and then people just start enjoying those public spaces. And one of the realizations that people realize, even if it's a sport activity, or if it's a sport day, or if it's an event or
celebration,
people realize how short the distances are if it comes to walking and cycling.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. That even if the event is geared towards leisure or sport, people realize, oh, that's the distance over here that I used to take my car to is actually much shorter. So then there's a change in mindset, which is and they can see different parts of the city, they enjoy different parts of the city. So there are in Dubai Dubai is a very, very big city. So and it has polycentric. It's not only one center, and everything is around
districts.
So there are several districts. And when visitors come to Dubai, they ride on the main highway, which runs across town. It's called the Sheikh Zayed Highway, E11, the number. So people think that we in Dubai, we always commute from the north to the south every day. But basically, what happens in Dubai in the past 10 years or so, each center, we call them centers. Each of these centers became its own. It has entertainment, it has a job, and it has the residential. So we don't, as residents in Dubai, we don't take that highway up north and south every day. There are many short trips on that highway. However, it's not like what people from the airport think, because they're trying to see everything in the city.
So
and they go around. Exactly. So this is what I feel from my friends who visit.
This is very true. This is also how I saw Dubai when we came from the airport and then going to the expo area. Like the first weeks, we thought like Dubai, it's only about moving from the north to the south, and there's only this highway, and this is basically Dubai.
Yes, because along this highway, it's connecting the 6 centers, and tourists they want to see everything on these highways. That's why they're trotting, like they're moving up and down.
Back and
but
forth,
we as residents,
so you have
we don't do that.
Yeah. So you mentioned like there's a district and there is like the service, entertainment, and so on. So how is it going within these centers?
You were asking about cycling and walking, and then I will tell you about my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the metro line connects north and south.
Yeah.
Major central business districts, and there's the coastal area, which was mostly low density residential, but it's mixed use. And then you have the inland area, which is the inland is mostly like, it's not coast. It's all like sometimes it's like we can say it's desert. Okay, so these were like developed with mostly predominantly low density residential neighborhoods. So the government started with a cycle track called Al Qudra cycle track, and maybe you've seen it. It's a state-of-the-art cycle track. It runs into the desert, and there's a urban legend in Dubai. And I heard it on the radio. I heard it before, but then the guy confirmed it on the radio. So I'm gonna quote him over here.
Yeah.
So there was a group of cyclists, men in Lycra. They were cycling along a desert highway every weekend early in the morning. And His Highness, the ruler, was always like driving to his majlis along that route and like saying hi to them along the way. And then one day they found a car from the government entity responsible for the transportation planning and implementation of the project. And the guy said hi to the cyclist. Hi, I am from the RTA.
Yeah.
And His Highness asked me to asked us to ask you guys, what do you need to cycle safely instead of cycling on the highway?
Wow.
That highway is actually not very used. It's not very busy.
Yeah.
So that's why they were cycling on it at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Like empty.
So they said, yeah, we would like to have a dedicated cycle track, off-street cycle track, etc., etc. So they worked together. And they implemented, can you imagine?
Wow.
Right now, this cycle track is 91 kilometers long.
Wow, this is crazy,
Exactly. And this is a story.
Wow.
So as I said, I'm quoting an urban legend, but it is, or an urban myth or something like this.
So beautiful.
But this is, I heard it on the radio. However, that specific cycle track is for sports.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I rarely use it. I'm not into sport as cycling as a sport. So this is one of the first cycle tracks that were in the city. There were other cycle tracks around parks, around beach waterfronts.
Yeah.
There was also another trend, which is there's a massive service sector in Dubai. So the service sector, traditionally, these people they don't have access to cars, and they do not have the necessary income to own cars.
Yeah.
So they were also having their own bicycles, riding around town. And with the introduction of electric scooters, we have a very high percentage of personally owned scooters. So it's unique. It's not like where people are renting scooters
sharing,
from scooter sharing. No, people own their scooters.
Cool.
So what they noticed is that people are buying the foldable scooters, taking them in the metro, and then when they exit the metro stations, they always see them zooming around metro stations and going to their business districts. So from that, as I told you, there was a lot of care taking into implementing cycling and walking networks around metro stations.
Okay.
Metro stations are traditionally linked to business districts and high density areas. They're not like in low density suburban neighborhoods. So this was the other development of cycling and walking in the city. From that, there was another development that took place, which is what they call them the soft mobility projects. Soft mobility in Arabic is called نقل المرن. So it's they've done a study of the whole city and identified a number of neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods are the highest density neighborhoods. They're affordable neighborhoods, and they implemented improvements along the whole neighborhood scale. So each neighborhood, the population was around 70,000, 100,000. One of them is 200,000.
Wow.
And they improved the infrastructure towards walking and cycling. And so typically these neighborhoods have metro and have mass transport in them, but they also have what we call short trips. Short trips are the trips that we are targeting when it comes to cycling and walking, which is between 1 to 5 kilometers max. So there, around those neighborhoods, they were there's so much. Even in the bus, if you look at the bus trips, there's so many short trips when it comes to the bus. So by improving the cycling and walking in these neighborhoods, they're actually they also took some trips from the buses, and people started using the infrastructure available. There's a menu of 10 or 12 improvements you can do around those metro stations. You provide cycle parking, you provide the drop-off bays for the bike sharing, car sharing. There's shading, microclimate, seating, etc. So these were I would say the third phase, or I would not say it's a phase, maybe they all went simultaneously depending on the budgeting. So that's the third phase of improvements within Dubai city. And however, there are still right now work onto dedicated off-street biking network along the city. And as I said, once they build a cycle track in one of the areas that was improvement, they count the number of cyclists, and the number of cyclists in one of the areas improved by 100%.
Oh, that's crazy.
So because of that, once you provide infrastructure,
of course,
people say it's too hot, people don't walk here, people have so many cars, people have so much disposable income, but people forget that there's so many people who don't have access to cars. Their income does not allow that. So these people were actually it makes me so happy when I see that you are providing for the people who do not from the different income bracket, and you gave them a quality of life. Because not only they use a state-of-the-art metro, but when they get out of the metro, they take the scooter and they go to their jobs safely, efficiently, with time, and with dignity. Because unfortunately, in our country, in Jordan, and sometimes the person who is walking, is the one who's compromised. So he made a decision for himself and for the environment and for the future to walk, and then immediately you are in danger. You are in very harsh circumstances. You're running for your life, and it just makes me so happy, and it wakes me up in the morning. When you give you give options and the dignity to the people who are walking, and to the different people, different types of people within your neighborhood, whether being income or age or ability.
I agree with you. It's very sad to see, unfortunately, this is the case in many cities. When you see the hierarchy of the traffic, you see the pedestrian or people walking is in the lowest level, and as you mentioned, that's the first one is going to be sacrificed, and it's very sad. So from what I understand, the image you painted to me about Dubai is there is a bike and walk, let's say, infrastructure within the different districts, and also connected to the metros, right? Around the metros.
A number of districts. Most of the districts, within all metro stations. But within this expansion of what you call self-mobility plans, with the three neighborhoods were completed, and more neighborhoods are being completed. But we have to bear in mind that this is a wealthy country. So the infrastructure is although it is car-centric, but there are sidewalks, there are curbs, there are pedestrian crossings, there is signage. So it's not, there are signals, but this is we're not talking about a poor country. So there is some infrastructure, and they're trying to improve it. However, it is very hard to retrofit car-centric infrastructure, because the priority was the value system when we were building a car-centric infrastructure is to deliver what we call level of service. You're familiar with that. So the level of service is basically to determine the volume of cars which you can move in a specific corridor. So that is actually the incentive, is to move as many cars as possible. It's not the incentive is to make the trip for the pedestrian and the human and the cyclist. It's a different value system when you are designing for humans. And if you want, we can talk about what are the 5 values you need to, principles you need to focus on when you do active travel. So one of them, for instance, is the directness. So when we walk as humans or cycle, we often choose the most direct route.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we don't want to like exit and go
not
and
zigzag.
do this and do this. So and the long distance and so we always choose the direct. That's why you always see the desire lines and people crossing from illegal areas, because they are direct connections. And this is very hard to retrofit when you are designing, when you initially started designing for the cars. And the other principle when you are planning for human or human-centric mobility is comfort. So people choose to walk where they are comfortable. So there has to be a tree canopy, shading, water, seating, etc. One of safety is extremely important. The coherence. So it has to be legible in your brain. Like if you're riding a bicycle, you don't want to think this is my lane, this is not my lane, etc., etc. So we mentioned the coherent, comfort, safety, directness, and that I think that we mentioned the 5. So these are the 5 principles, as opposed to the level of service for the cars.
But the thing is that it's going to take a lot of time and energy and resources to transform a car-based or car-centric city to more human and bike and walk centric cities, right?
Of course, but it doesn't mean that we should prevent that and give up. And as I told you, if you look at the cost benefit, comparing cycling and walking to car-centric infrastructure, the cost benefit outweighs it. Like, I'll give you examples.
Give me.
So in LA, LA, Los Angeles is very, very car-centric.
Yeah.
So they've noticed that in the neighborhoods where after they improved the cycling infrastructure, there was a 12% increase in the sales tax in those areas.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you improve a neighborhood and improve cycling and walking in it, people buy more in that neighborhood. So because people in walking, this is also proven in London.
Yeah.
People who walk and cycle buy more in the local retail. So actually, this was used as a tool to encourage retailers on high streets to tell them, let's take some car space, let's take some car parking spaces, and dedicate them to walking and cycling, because the retailers, they were always convinced that if you take the parking away, people will actually stop coming to my shop. But in the contrary, they heard that there is a bias, that it is not that the patrons that are coming to these shops are actually car drivers. They're not. Maybe 50-50. Some of them are walking and cycling, and some of them are car drivers. But the people who are driving by cars, they complain the most.
Of course.
And they complain about parking the most. That's why the retailers in their background, they think that this is basically the reason. And there are different ways of managing parking. But I would say something is that there is that book of High Cost of Free Parking by Donald Shoup. So he says that he noticed that even retailers park their own cars in these spots. So it's not like these car spots are for patrons. They're actually for the employees
also,
who are on these spots. So we're not saving anyone by making parking available free for people everywhere. We now jump to parking, but it is you cannot talk about cycling and walking without talking about parking.
It is part of the story. I work a lot with the placemaking, and recently they approved that doing the parklet, like taking off some cars and putting like parklets, like benches and maybe playgrounds. This increased a lot the income for the shops, and so it's like more approved, and the car is not the king anymore everywhere.
Yes, especially in the neighborhoods, as you like in Europe, where you have compact neighborhoods, and the space is of value. However, if you are in a low density suburban environment, the value of the space is not in shortage. However, the quality of space deteriorates immediately the more you provide, the more parking you provide.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm curious to ask you. I guess you heard a lot about 15-minute city, right?
Yeah.
When you now plan in Dubai, more like, let's say, talking mobility and transportation, do you consider this as like a 15-minute city concept, or no, you plan what fits to Dubai and you don't like consider so much of 15-minute city and let's implement it and so on? If you understand my question.
Yeah, of course, of course. So 15-minute city, of course, like you've hosted the person who envisioned the concept. Dubai has adopted, as I mentioned, the Dubai Urban 2040 plan, which is a growth plan for the next until 2040, and it was one of the first ones to be approved and by the highest level in the city, because previously the development happened so fast and led by real estate developers and very ambitious projects. However, this project was done, this plan was done with everybody on the table. Everybody, all the stakeholders were on the table, and and it was approved by the highest level. So right now it's leading the development of the city in the future. This 2040 plan, they had 6 principles, and from the 6 principles they have 40 initiatives or themes. So one of them is the 20-minute neighborhood and X-minute city. So the 20-minute neighborhood, when we people talk a 15-minute city, it's actually, it should be a neighborhood, okay? Because 15-minute city cannot let's focus on the community or a neighborhood. So what you need is within those you can commute within 15-minute catchment. So however, the rest, like there are facilities that should be on a walking distance, which is in this region 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and then you have like something on cycling and etc. And then you have the X-minute city, which is where you go to your job using public transport. So for instance, Singapore, they have 40-minute city. So because they want to say that anywhere in Singapore you live, you can take the public transport and go to your job with this. So this is the first clarification. Yes, there has been principles since even before they coined it 20-minute city. There is a manual of provision of public facilities, like the mosque should be 400 meters the maximum distance, depending on the neighborhood. There is even in Abu Dhabi, the mosque should be 250 meters. The primary school should be at maybe 800 meters. I forgot. Secondary school becomes like this. So it has been embedded, but I don't know how will this work if you're still planning massive road corridors and very low density and navigating parking. So this is what I'm working on the past maybe 2 years or so, is that this small interventions when it comes to the infrastructure into for cycling and walking. And that we can cover now, or we can cover later.
We can do it now. I am very happy to hear from you. You can you can tell us more about these interventions.
So there is a manual called Active Design Guidelines prepared by the New York Architects Association, and there's so much weight going into what the traffic planners and the road planners and the urban designers can do to promote cycling and walking. However, when you make that infrastructure and you provide infrastructure and you provide, for instance, public transport, the last interface, one of the important interfaces is the interface with the building. So how the building envelope is planned from the outside, how it's meeting the curb, how it's meeting the street, is extremely important to promote cycling and walking. And then inside the building is also another story, how to promote cycling and walking. So let's talk about the building envelope. I live next to one of the main cycle tracks in the city. So there is a hospital next to my house, and I went and I visited a friend. It's like maybe 2 kilometers away from my house. So I took my bike. I went there. It's a famous cycle track, so everybody knows about that cycle track. It's not a leisure only; it's mobility as well.
It is,
So I arrived to the hospital, and where can I park my bike? no, you cannot park. I went around the hospital twice. I could not park my bike.
Wow.
And then eventually I parked it somewhere. I got out of the hospital to find it. They moved it somewhere else. They put it next to the garbage rooms. I'm like next to the loading, and it's just so this, whose responsibility is that?
Exactly.
Is that the instead of focusing on the form, on the shape, on the facades, etc. Well, how about we focus on the experience of the person who is not arriving by car,
True.
who is arriving by their bicycles? Where do I put my bicycle? Where do I the parking of the bicycle should be in somewhere safe, should be somewhere shaded, should have cameras, should have close
or service
to the entrance. Yeah. For, another example is that my gym. So
you have a lot.
If I take my car to the gym, it's
Yeah.
half an hour. If I take my bicycle, it's literally 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I take my bicycle to the gym.
Yes.
And then I'm like, I arrive to it's a high rise, it's a CBD. So it's a central business district.
Yeah.
And I arrive to the high rise building. I'm like, where can I buy my bike? No, go to basement 2. I'm like, basement 2. I try to go. It's like the ramp is like this, and it's like, why do I have to be compromised?
Yeah.
Why do I have to break my neck in order to park my bike? Eventually, I made a compromise with them. I'm parking with the unloading and unloading bay because of because this is on the ground level instead of going B2. And if I went to B2, there were so many people who have parked their scooters indoors, but they're different because they take it in the elevator. I can't take my bicycle on the elevator. So this is a very important role of the facility management.
Yeah.
So the facility management should understand that they are in a business district connected to a metro, connected to a cycle track. They should provide facilities for cyclists and walking. And on the contrary, architects, when they are designing a new building or retrofitting an existing building, should think about that. Should think about that experience of the person who is walking, cycling. That their needs are totally different than the needs of the person who is arriving by car.
Yeah.
Even simple things, Mustafa. Simple things as seating. Like if you are cycling with a child or cycling or walking with an elderly, they need to sit somewhere. They need garbage bins. They need shading, as you know. They need something nice, beautiful. Maybe I forgot to tell you this. People used to cycle. People choose to cycle on aesthetic, something based on aesthetics. They want to look at something nice.
Also,
so if it's a blind facade, if they are putting our cycle track next to the garbage rooms, or like the MEP or AC blowing hot air at us, people will not cycle. So this is how you really encourage cycling and walking instead of only focusing on infrastructure and road projects. Let's think about humans when it comes to the building, once they arrive to the building and once they enter the building itself.
Yeah. There is a book, I don't know if you read it, but I recommend it also. It's Soft City by David Sim.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's
I didn't read it, actually,
okay.
but I've always had it on my Amazon list.
Yeah. No, David is great, and his book is very lovely, and it's also Jan Gale part of it, or forwarded by Jan Gale. It talks about this soft city, that the integration between the building, the streets, and so on, to create this like a soft, beautiful, and comfortable city for people. And I think this is a lot to do with us, that we should have a multidisciplinary teams to remind each other that when an architect design their beauty, their landmark, should also pay attention and remember there are people around this building. And then for the urban designers as well, to integrate like the different small details that makes this experience very good for people to bike and cycle and so on.
100%. And you know what? If you look at the people ask me about the well and the lead and all of this, they have them. So the people look at them as checklists in order to get certification. However, when you implement the building and when you build it, you need some kind of care and attention, and follow up in order to realize what you have built. Even if a manhole level change of 5 centimeters, it means a death, or somebody will break something out. In order, if people take it lightly, the texture of the pavement, like the paving or the surfaces, will also impact how people move. There are like surface parking, for example, surface parking. So you would think that surface parking is fine for cycling or walking, but it's actually like a death zone for me. Like people have massive SUVs, they don't expect that I'm there. I'm not that tall. People cannot see me. I'm like waving. My children are with me. it's really, really insensitive
It's
if people
exactly.
just like dedicate the access to the building through a surface parking.
Yeah.
You just give a dedicated. So this is what I am right now focusing on. Existing buildings, how we can actually
Transform.
make them or neighborhoods or existing streets,
Yeah.
how we can target the minimum viable change that costs as low as possible in order to provide encourage, promote cycling and walking.
Yeah.
And people are not paying attention to that. People are looking at the massive projects. There's a tendency and a tendency for large scale development, and people want to cut ribbons and build massive projects, and people do not take a lot of credit or attention to small interventions that change your quality of life.
This is it. The thing is that this is a system have been existing for many, many years, from the modernism and so on. So the attention is to the huge landmarks, to this massive architecture, to the fanciest car and the fast car, not so much about the details and the basic elements in everyday life. So this is like what me and you and our colleagues living in it is that try to transform this mindset, transform the city until, let's see when we will manage to have a human-centric city in the future. But now it's like it's our mission is to fix the problems that our previous colleagues created.
Everybody has a role.
Yeah.
And the event that you and me participated in ArcNet before, my talk was actually like we can actually identify how each one of us can improve and encourage life, active travel, and encourage sustainable mobility as a whole. Architects have a role. Interior designers have a role. Even if you have a media platform, such
also,
as yours, or if you are participating in an event or speaking at an event, ask the organizers: did you provide cycling and walking? When you are putting that to how to get to the facility, can you encourage people to come by cycling or walking? If you got by bicycle, where can I park my bike? You can demand this. If you are a healthcare professional, you can also tell your patients, or you can promote it's not like take a walk only, that you go to work walking. When you arrive somewhere, take your time, plan ahead, and park somewhere far in order to avoid congestion and parking cruising. You know the story about cruising for parking?
No.
That cruising for parking actually causes so much congestion. In the same book, for the high cost of free parking, it causes so much congestion and it's actually also very dangerous for walking and cycling, because if you're cruising and looking for parking, you're not watching for pedestrians and cyclists.
You mean
and we're all,
so
people are cruising for parking. So if people just have the sensitivity to arrive, just to plan their trip earlier, and just park a little bit further and walk down that walk, that will save lives in order, and also encourage cycling and walking. So each one of us, I don't like to think it's only the responsibility of one or the other. Everybody has a role in order to promote this. One last thing is how to teach your children to walk and cycle.
Exactly.
How to teach children to walk and cycle. Yes, it's just by first of all modeling. Don't be that lazy and just park your car in that entrance and load the stuff and block the everywhere. It's about common good manners and common sense. Just mirror that behavior, and people model it, and the children will actually copy it. So teach them how to interact with their cities, etc. And it did not come intuitively to me, Mustafa. I've had my children here, and I'm living in a neighborhood that has infrastructure, but I wasn't sure. It took me a while to understand that I really need to teach my children how to interact with the road. I need to retrofit my neighborhood in order to meet the walking and cycling. And I worked bit by bit with that. I've worked with the community. I raised concerns to the authority, and right now, up to recently, my children were walking to the school by themselves, and they're 8 years old.
That's so beautiful.
In Dubai, by themselves, and they cycle by themselves. And it's not only them; it's the whole neighborhood they benefited from that tiny improvements. And I'm telling you, very, very surgical interventions. And right now, I am in my own startup. I started a startup called the Street Design Team. I am rolling this schema to a number of schools around the city,
Wow.
whereby we want to target doing tactical interventions on the infrastructure around cities to promote safe and safety when walking and cycling around these neighborhoods.
That's amazing.
This is what we call walking and cycling urbanism.
Cool.
So basically, we use the tools of walking and cycling in order to as a framework, in order to promote sustainable, like to create cities that are thriving, or streets that are thriving, streets that are safe, streets that are fulfilling the function that they are meant to do. And this is one of the key focus areas that I am focusing on right now.
That's amazing. What I love with you is that you are walking the talk. So it will be another conversation if you told me like I don't bike, to be honest. This is what this is what I see, like leaders, you lead by example, instead of like just talking, but you're doing it, and just to show that, okay, it's not just like a theory or a beautiful image. No, it is like I'm doing it, so it is possible. So
it is exactly that.
Shout out to you.
If people like, if you are in a meeting and people say, "Oh, it's fine, it's safe. Let's leave this and let's walk."
Yeah.
Did you experience that?
Exactly.
Did you step on asphalt before? Did you? And my parents are elderly, and they're in their 70s, and my children are young. So I am thinking of the cities for both of them.
Yeah.
I'm not only thinking of me, physically able. I am thinking of the cities for both of them. I want cities that my children can actually thrive in. They will not become depressed because they don't walk. They don't become fat because they don't, or overweight. They are independent. They are not dependent on me. They have autonomy. And at the same time, for my elderly parents, if they are continue to live in a suburban neighborhood and they are isolated from the whole world, they will actually deteriorate much faster. And this is what's happening. I'm telling you about this because I lived when I was young in a mixed-use neighborhood, but then I was a child of the suburbs.
Yeah.
And I hate suburbs. When we were transplanted in the suburbs, it became very, very lonely because you have to depend on somebody to drive you, in order to go anywhere. And that is actually, I detest driving. I would rather walk as much as I can. Cycling gives you more distance, more what we call walking shed. But I prefer that because it just, when you're dependent on somebody else to run your errands, to do all of this, especially for elderly now in Jordan, it's very, very, very sad.
True. That's very true. No, it's very interesting what we are talking about. And what I love to ask you, like now in your job, if you mention like maybe the two biggest challenges that you're facing in your job, in order to make this transformation.
Actually, this is not only it has been identified by a number of different jurisdictions around the world. It's awareness and education skill. Okay, so when you are in university, most of the schools right now, they focus like transportation is separate from urban design and separate from architecture and landscape architecture. Mobility and sustainable mobility is touched upon, but it's not. People do not have an understanding how to design for walking and cycling. And I think the government of New South Wales in Australia, they've identified that, and they called for abstracts, and they recently announced their most recent course in order to for I think a master's degree or bachelor's degree, in order to train people how to design human-centric sustainable infrastructure. The Dutch Cycling Embassy has been organizing courses and promoting this around the whole world. In the last COP27, the Dutch Cycling Embassy and the Dutch government, they said they will invest in training, I think, 10,000 city professionals worldwide. I think in Germany, there was a new course for a master's degree or something like this. It was the first cycling infrastructure course. This is a new field.
Yeah.
And it's expertise and skill is lacking, and it's not it's new. So this is one of the challenges. So I had to work on myself in order to obtain skills, and at the same time, I will, of course, will keep on refining and learning more skills, because even in the Dutch, who are the people who leading the whole notion of promoting cycling and walking, they're also testing. So we
Of
test
course.
this infrastructure and test more and
Of
test more
course.
and test this detail and
Always.
test that detail. And as I said, because it's for humans, so it's a human behavior is not like a machine. So it changes, and
Exactly.
it's subject to too many variables. So the key one of the key challenges is actually skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other challenge, I would say, awareness. We did not discuss in details, but if a parent understands that if they drive their child everywhere, and if there's a tendency of 1 in every 3 adults to be obese, and the children that right now is 14% obesity, and it's because children are not physically active, and they can realize that physical activity by changing taking some of the short trips, because we're not talking about taking all the trips everywhere. We're changing some of the short trips around the city and taking them by car and cycling. That's a major driver. The other is just we as humans walk for like since for millennia, and then in the past 100 years we forgot
Exactly.
that we walk. Yeah, so we need to remember that we were made for walking, and otherwise it's deadly for us.
Yeah.
So the impact of your lifestyle choices affects the outcome at the end when it comes to health and well-being. Choosing where to live, choosing where to the school that your children go to is actually will have a massive effect on their quality of life. And going back to loneliness, if you're in an isolated place, which is very suburban, and people need to take their cars to go everywhere, then it will impact the well-being and the mental well-being. So this is another challenge
you're
that
facing.
People are facing.
Yeah, because what I want to ask you, like, talk about people. We talked about this infrastructure, the system, and the professionals. I want to talk about like people's behavior. Like I'm originally from Baghdad, and there in my country, in my city, we have this mindset. Of course, not all of us. I need to be clear as well. But if you own a car, you have a higher status in the hierarchy in the society. And people strive to own a car, to drive a car, more than like owning a bike or walking. Like when we see a person biking or walking, we say, such a poor person, and they are like in the low socioeconomic level. But when you drive in the car, then you are like, you made it, you're living the dream, you're cool. So how do we, even if like driving car is not good for health, not good for the environment, economy, and you name it, so how do we change this behavior and this belief?
Mustafa, it's very simple. Every car trip starts with walking and ends up with walking. Every car trip. So if we improve the infrastructure for walking around those destinations, actually immediately, like you have, so even if those people have like the best cars in the world, they will end up leaving that car and walking. So if on that stretch, if we improve that stretch, I think it's even worthwhile. My friend's dad broke his back going into a supermarket. Regardless of going in, if that infrastructure is available, if you're talking about 100 meters, 200 meters, that's for me, that's good enough. And we're not talking about going everywhere all the time. So the study done by the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, there was a household survey. I have the statistics for 2009. Or there are other statistics, but they estimated that if there are 10,000 billion miles driven on short trips in the US alone. So they estimated that what if we look at the trips that are under 1 mile? Only we look at the trips that are under 1 mile. And we transfer these trips from car driven to walking or cycling. What would the impact on the world be?
Yeah.
So I'm only talking about 1 mile. So the people who have the fantastic cars, they can go to other trips. But if I'm talking about the 1 mile, what if we only take half of them? Because the other half, they are physically unable to walk. The weather is not good, or the temperature is too hot, or they don't have time. So what would the impact be? It would be equivalent of taking 400,000 cars off the road every year.
Wow.
And it will equal to we're talking about the trips that are under 1 mile, under 1 mile. So it will be equivalent to saving to $900,000.
Wow.
Alone. So it's fine if half of the people continue to drive and half of the people look at those short trips and transfer them into walking and cycling.
Mm-hmm. What is the next, like what is the next for Dubai? What is the next step?
As a government, they make announcements that they want to be the best city to live in the world. So they are always aiming for the lifestyle right now.
Yeah.
So as I said, when it came to cycling, promoting cycling and stuff, it was about also the lifestyle and promoting health and well-being. There is they will continue into improving the network of the infrastructure. There is an expansion of the scooters and bike sharing, and there is a more infill development, because there were some like sprawl around. Right now, there is more infill development within the city. There is more attention towards the natural assets.
Yeah.
So the beach, they witnessed massive developments over the past years, and the beach in Dubai is actually one of the most inclusive spaces in the city. Have you been?
Yeah, it's which part of is, because they are different, right?
No, they're all along the same coast. So it's called the Jumeirah Beach, Kite Beach. All of them, they're just tiny beaches along this. So it's if you go there, there is a state-of-the-art cycling track off street.
Yeah, I saw it.
And one of my favorite projects that we worked on recently. There is a dedicated running track. There are very good amenities, toilets and showers for everyone. The beach is super safe for females, for males. There are children, there are lifeguards, there are police most of the time, and it's free of charge. So there is the attention to develop the waterfront has been has brought me so much joy, and it's my favorite place in the whole city. There is also now attention to develop the inland. There is a village called Hatta. So people they are focusing on developing that. So this is what I would say, but I am always looking at spatially. I'm looking at it spatially. However, maybe if you spoke to someone else, they would tell you something about tourism or something about economy or events. But I'm looking at it in terms of spatially, because I think spatially.
Yeah, making cities for people. Before we move to the last section of this episode, I share with you. Here in Stockholm, also, like, the city was struggling with you mentioned, like, the harmony between the buildings and the bike lines and the street, the urban design. So here they introduced like an award for being a bike-friendly office or bike-friendly building and so on. So maybe this is also something you can also like work with, like giving an award, because there is a certification, if I understand correctly. But then you can introduce an award, like if you have X amount of parking for bikes, if you promote like your employees to bike, you give them bonus, or you give them more free time if they bike, and so on. So
actually, yes,
it's super
definitely.
cool. Yeah.
One of the schools I worked on, I told them they said they have 300 staff, and their school is not connected to a metro.
Yeah.
So they said there like 300 of them, maybe 200 they arrive by cars.
Wow.
So I said, okay, you should encourage the staff that are carpooling, give them a dedicated parking closer to the school. Or there's another school that we worked on. We told them that the staff should park far away and leave the closer parking along the entrance of the school for the parents who drop off and pick up and drop off and pick up. Of course, it's not ideal, but the situation is that this was disconnected from the city. The school is disconnected from the city and has no public transport around it. So we had to play with the parking and the incentives in order to make it safer for the children to walk around the school. But what you're talking about is an even better scheme, whereby providing showers, providing incentives. Some people, some companies, they pay back the employees who choose not to use parking. So it's extremely worthwhile, and it's actually very cost effective.
So Deema, is cycling in the Middle East a luxury thing or a necessity?
After this explanation, it's definitely the best way to go. And I would say we should always talk about cycling and walking. So we're talking about, because the same conditions that are conducive to cycling are the conditions that enable walking. We have to talk about networks. We should not talk about tracks or length of tracks. We should talk about networks. We should talk about it as transport, not sport. And lastly, we should always talk about it that some trips, some of the time, in order not to make people like alienate them and make them say that it's so hard to implement. So let's change some trips and some of the time and take it from there.
Very inspiring. And now we in the final section or part of this episode. And in this podcast, usually we talk about projects. And we talk about people behind the project. For me and for our listeners from 140 countries, it's important to get inspiration from our guests. So you're a great woman leading and working hard to making like cities for people. I love to ask you, what motivates you? What is your motivation?
As I said before, I think it's my children and my parents, and the elderly and the children, because I really want a better city for both, and this is that what's driving, and it comes with age. When you see your parents aging or when your children growing, you really want the best for both of them. Maybe when I was young, I was looking at more energy efficiency, more at conserving conservation, because we have a lot of archaeological sites, etc. However, now it's all about being inclusive to all different people, different types of people in our society.
So people gives you energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And from you mention you work and you have the startup and so on. How do you find the work-life balance? Especially like you need to do a lot of change, you do a lot of impact at the same time. You have kids, you have a family, you have your hobbies. So how do you find the work-life balance?
I'm not sure there's a work-life balance, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of books, and if people want a practical tip, so I'm not gonna lecture, but if it's not in the calendar, it means it's not real. So schedule everything.
Okay.
So how long it took us to schedule this podcast? A few months, right?
Yeah.
So I think I took this from Tim Ferriss' podcast or Shane Parrish. I'm not sure, one of them.
Okay.
Is that we start with a calendar, blank calendar, and if it's not in the calendar, like 3 weeks in advance, it's not real. So of course there is so much flexibility in the calendar. There are so many gaps. But my calendar is my goal dump, my mission dump. Everything is in the calendar, and this is how it becomes real. So, for example, I'll give you an example. If someone needs to book a reservation in a restaurant, if we try to book it 2 hours before the dinner, then it's gonna take an hour to find an empty table, restaurant, all of this. But if you book it 3 weeks in advance or 2 weeks in advance, you can just send an email and people reply to you. Imagine the level of effort to achieving such a simple task to do this. So imagine how much time it took us to schedule this. it was simple. Like, Deema, are you free this? Okay, fine. In
Yeah.
the next few months, because I'm traveling, it was easier. But
Sure.
this is how I manage. I manage my schedule and the children. And I, of course, leave time for leisure. But I even schedule my exercise,
Cool.
things like that.
Very, very well planned.
And so, like, even trips, if you're going somewhere, you need to schedule how much time to
Yeah.
park. If you're taking your bicycle, if you
so you're that precise, no?
it becomes automatically.
Okay.
It becomes automatically because I don't like to drive. I don't like to look for parking. So I plan things accordingly, and it gives me peace of mind. Maybe it's too much for some people, but trust me, it makes things much easier.
I think especially you work with transportation, so this is going to be extra.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies, Deema? What do you do?
I love cities, and I am a nerd of cities. So I love traveling, and I love hiking as well. So I just came from Rome.
Oh, nice, Roma.
And yeah, so and I mostly like to travel to urban places. So I'm not like, I don't.
Okay, high five then.
So yeah. So yeah, cities are my passion. I'm I recently explored Rome, and doing a lot of trips for even urban cycling.
Yeah.
Looking at countries such as, for instance, in August, I went to Seville to look at their experience in cycling, because they've actually were able to achieve 6% mode share of cycling, and it's a hot country, dry. So I was exploring that. So yeah, so this is I spend a lot of time and energy, and I enjoy it so much as well.
Did you like Roma?
Roma, you know the book Walkable Cities by Jeff Speck?
Yeah.
It starts by describing their walk in Roma to the Colosseum with a pram, with a stroller.
Yeah.
And he says that it was not walking friendly. And it's actually, when you go there, it's not very walking friendly. Everybody's competing to the same space.
Yeah.
There's so much cars. There's hardly any tree canopy, which was very, very surprising.
Yeah.
The weather is not that bad, but I bet, I've never been in the summer, but I bet that it is going to be extremely hot with the dark cobblestones, and there's no tree canopy. Yeah. However, they can get away for now because of the density of destinations. Because when we say about walking, is that it has to be a meaningful walk and an interesting walk. So they have that with the density, and it's close to each other and stuff. But in like, if you're even right now in the winter, you had to so many times, and so many people on the sidewalk, and it's not tourist areas, it's like residential areas. You have to get off the sidewalk, and because there's so many people on the sidewalk. Yeah. Even in February. So I'm not sure if Paris was like that before. I don't remember Paris like that before. This Paris, they've done so much improvements, and maybe the infrastructure in the city form and infrastructure is newer than in Rome. It's a different paradigm.
It's different stories,
but, yeah, different story.
So when will you go to Stockholm? Have you been here?
No, actually, I've never been to Northern Europe. I am planning, not Stockholm, but I will maybe go to Copenhagen.
I think, I thought about you in Copenhagen, because like you're working especially with the biking and walking, and I think listeners.
So there will be trips.
Yeah, I think so. You will enjoy it. Then you need to be careful with telling is like Amsterdam or Rotterdam is good, or Copenhagen in biking, and there is like this.
There is so much
competition.
YouTube videos on that, right? Yeah. Well, it's for us, the uninitiated, for cycling, urban cycling. Yeah. Amsterdam is very intimidating when it comes to cycling. It's not the cars that are intimidating. It's the fellow cyclists that's very, very intimidating. And it's like you tourists, you're like city tourists, you're like taking your time and looking around for the destination. So it was very intimidating. So I still walk in Amsterdam when I can, and take stay local as much as I can. Otherwise, for me, it's intimidating. Because I'm a slower. I take my time. I'm not like I don't zoom, and it's different in Holland. Yeah, it's different.
Cool.
So what is
Mm.
the next step for you, career-wise?
So career-wise, I am focusing on, so after 17, 18 years of working in large teams, working
Wow.
in multidisciplinary engineering firms, I decided to focus on cycling and walking,
Mm.
urbanism, and I started the street design team. It's incubated at the Dubai Design District Innovation Hub. It's called In5. And we are aiming to focus on three main items, which is, first of all, is advisory.
Yeah.
So academy, and lastly is awareness. So providing data for people to understand the impact of our lifestyle on the planet, health and wealth, and sustainability. This is why I'm investing this time in storytelling and talking to people.
Yeah.
Because when you're a consultant and working in a very tight deadlines, and when a developer and competing with other developers and stuff, there is not much time given to storytelling and documenting the process and telling what the stories behind the plans. And I am making a commitment to provide time to talk about that in my practice. As for the advocacy and the advisory part, our region in the Middle East is saturated by multidisciplinary engineering firms. They are the leading. It's a status quo when you have a team of thousands of engineers and architects and designers leading how they're telling everyone how the cities should look like and how they should build. However, they are incentivized by man hours and by massive infrastructure. There is in Europe, there is like the EIT and the European Union, and there is advocacy, and there are in the US there is like an academic people who are they are lobbying. There are organizations such as the CNU who are promoting new concepts. There are homegrown organizations, community-driven organizations that work with neighborhoods in order to improve them. However, in our region, this is missing. So I will take the risk, and I want to focus on that.
You will take the lead.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm that's a plan for now, and
that's amazing.
I'm looking forward to
No,
it.
that's really amazing. I'm happy. I'm happy to see leaders like you taking the lead and trying to make a change. And you have all my support, and I would love to hear from you stories as well in the future when you do more interesting projects. So again, thank you so much. I know you give
I
your
have questions for
time.
you, Mustafa.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So I am new to this whole social media thing.
Yes.
And as I told you, when you're in an office, you're not required to post or record videos or etc. So how do you choose your platform? Right, like LinkedIn versus Instagram versus Twitter versus YouTube, and I'm not going to even talk about TikTok and all of this. So how did you? I noticed that you are on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And right now, maybe recently on YouTube. But how did you choose which one?
The thing you choose, like from my perspective, depends on your mission. So you want to inspire the public civil, or the expert. There are two parts. You decide. Or if the public, then the public are not on LinkedIn. They are on TikTok, number one, and then number two, Instagram. But I prefer TikTok because then your message will really be delivered, and you will grow in a crazy way, like in the amount of followers. Or if you are targeting the experts, then your experts are on LinkedIn. So like my podcast, my work, I'm targeting not the public, I'm targeting the experts. That's why I'm only on LinkedIn. So it's very basic, and then you move.
I noticed, for example, like consultancy firms such as Gale, for example, they are on YouTube and Instagram. So it's a lot of people, but I think that investing the time in YouTube, or maybe it's new for me, it will be more like time intensive. Do you think how do you think about time when you are investing it,
Yeah,
because at the end of the you have to determine where to invest.
exactly. And when we're
Yeah.
talking about Gale, like these are like a huge organizations, and they already started they build an infrastructure. I will not talk about like they have their own communication managers and so on, but from
Yeah.
what I see, like they already started like this way of communication, so they are continuing it because they have their audience there, they have like already built and established, and they're stable there, so they are continuing in like on, let's say, YouTube or Instagram. I think for
So if I were to start, where should I focus? My target, if I'm looking at that, like I told you, I have three.
yeah,
So if I'm looking at advocacy and it has to be both.
yeah,
If I'm looking at skills, it has to be only on LinkedIn.
yeah,
If I'm looking at awareness, it's the latter, not
yeah.
LinkedIn.
The
But it's a lot. It's time intensive.
Yeah,
Focus on all these platforms.
this is it. Like this is it. It's very time intensive, and I recommend you also to start a podcast. Then it's gonna be another like layer to you. No, but like you're already on LinkedIn, you're doing very good, so you can use your channel, like from your personal profile, promote what you work at your startup, because pages.
I worry that that people who attend conferences and listen to this podcast and are on LinkedIn are the same people. So if I want to convert new people, I have to go to where they are.
Of course. No, but there are always new people coming to LinkedIn, and more people listening to a podcast, and the same people listening to you and watching you. It's always good to remind them. If you watch Jan Gale's lectures, he is telling exactly the same thing in all the lectures. Cities for people, cities for people, cities for people. Same thing. So it's not bad that you're repeating, but shouldn't be too much. You will find the balance. But it's also always good also to make like a video. Let's say you make a video and then you can put it on YouTube and then cut it to make like a TikTok. So it's like you can reuse material. Tell me what?
I'm not gonna go to TikTok.
Why not? Why not? It's if you target.
I am overwhelmed with Instagram. I started an Instagram page. I started a Twitter. I started, but I would tell you I didn't post anything for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
LinkedIn I can manage.
Yeah.
I can manage, but we'll see how I go. But yeah, you're right.
It depends. It's a lot of out of comfort zone. Especially when it comes to TikTok.
And even videos, even videos
or videos. No, I think you're very comfortable in the front of the camera, and so it's like for the first time it's gonna be tough, but it's out of comfort zone, and if you want to make a change, so you have to step out of the comfort zone. But I'm watching the TikTok is, if you're targeting the civil public, then the TikTok is your key. Your winning card.
Wider public, yeah. Got it. Maybe I'll ask you for more details offline.
Of course, I will be happy to help. Even with the podcast, with videos, with LinkedIn. I think the thing we need more voices. It's not enough like with me talking, with you talking. We need like it to encourage. So when you're doing this, you will inspire so many others.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Deema,
for having me, and thank you for taking the time to make this episode and bringing the East-West mindset or not mindset, the perspective to our discussion. And maybe next time we'll have podcasts in Arabic so that
of course
other people can also join us.
Yeah, I will be more than happy. And the last question is that you give 3 takeaway messages to our listeners, and then we finish this episode.
So the 3 takeaways are the things that we can like summarize what we discussed before. Is that everybody has a role in order to promote walking or active travel, from a facility management to an employer to a parent, a doctor, a media professional, even a web designer, marketing, a movie producer, an architect, an engineer, and an MEP engineer. All of us have a role in promoting walking and cycling and active travel. The other one is that don't be afraid of making small changes. A small bollard can save lives. Just relocating a bench or a garbage bin or putting a tree will actually make a difference for people. If the city does not function for like an 80-year-old or an 80-year-old, that means it's not a city for all. And this is the notion that we can close with.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Deema.
Thank you.